Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Trending Thursdays. We're going to be taking a step off of Trending Thursdays briefly because I got a little rant. Not a rant, I really should say, just some guidance for some cats who potentially will be checking this out. Maybe not today, but I know that they're going to review this in a few. And this week we've been talking all about you being committed to your closet, you being committed to your character, and making sure that that is what the expression is. And I want to be clear with what we're looking to do here at Style Speaks and with Style Architects. We're looking to make sure that your image and your identity align themselves, and to make sure that we're telling the story through style, telling the story of style, telling the story to style, so that you guys have an understanding not only of the history of his story when it comes to style, and you'll find some interesting things about historical experiences when it comes to clothing, but also the history of brands, because those things are important. They help shape the image of the identity of people, and you're probably going to start seeing that some of these brands don't really have an identity, that they're all over the place in their expression, and also to start speaking in a space so that you are an expert in the exchange of your ensemble, not necessarily in all matters of clothing. You're not trying to be a clothier, you're not trying to be a stylist, you're not trying to be image consultant or in the corporate space when it comes to fashion, or maybe you are, and if that's the case, then this will allow you to have that diversity. But it is to make sure that you are an expert, a master of yourself. And I saw something on social media today, and I saw something like 6 months ago that two guys that I know, really great guys, but I think that they had misinterpretations about things. The first thing that I saw yesterday, or today actually, was a guy who said, expert is relative. No, expert is not relative, and I'm going to go into why in a second. And the second thing that I saw was actually through a discussion that I had with a friend, with an acquaintance, I should say, and we were talking about style, and he said something to the effect of, we were talking about some details within the look that he was talking about, and he said, I don't want to get focused on the granular elements of, style, on these detailed elements of style, because I'm not really focused on that. And my response was, well, then what are you focused on? Then don't call this a stylistic look, because the style, real style, is all about the details. It's about your ability to separate yourself very subtly, if need be, from the masses. And so the first thing that I want to talk to you about was expertise. One of my favorite authors is Robert Greene. Robert Greene has written numerous books: 48 Laws of Power, Art of Seduction, 33 Laws of War, and then Mastery, right? Mastery is probably one of my favorite books that he's written, because it talks about the process. We've heard that it takes 10,000 hours for you to master something, but what he talked about was how the process actually goes for a person to master something, the intention and the focus that you have to have in order to master something. And so we go through a space called apprenticeship first, and he broke it down: apprenticeship, you then moving into proficiency, and then ultimately mastery. So in your apprenticeship phase, you're still trying to figure out the code and how all these different types of things go together. That may take 3 to 5 years of intensive study, of you being intentional about knowing what you want. So he talks about Leonardo da Vinci standing in front of a flower and trying every day, or whatever he's drawing in front of it every day, to make sure that he has every line perfect and that it mimics the actual the actual media that he is trying to copy. And so that's how he got so good at creating things, because he would spend hours upon hours just drawing, a petal. He would spend hours upon hours just drawing a stem to make sure that it was a perfect rendition or a perfect copy of what he was seeing. And so then he moved into proficiency, and proficiency allows you to see how the code works. If this was, computer coding, we would be able to see all the zeros and ones, and we would know where everything needed to go so that we could start the program. And then lastly, mastery, it allows you to manipulate the code to do what you want it to do. And so those old coders could, create banners, and they could create words and make words bold and all these different types of things, because they understood, they had mastered the code. But people will say, oh, I'm an expert in this space. And then when you ask them certain things, they don't know about certain things. And there's nothing wrong with you not being an expert. There's nothing wrong with you being a acute student of saying, yo, I'm learning all these different types of things that you're probably not even paying attention to, that you probably don't even know about. So yes, I'm a student. And interestingly enough, most masters will say, I'm not a master. I'm not mastering this until I die. They say kendo instructors, and if you don't know what kendo is, or form of martial arts, they'll say that they're masters, they're experts, don't even consider themselves experts until they are dead, like until they are dying, and they're like, okay, now I may have achieved mastery in this expert space. And that's because there's always so many things to learn. The second thing was when the homie was saying, yo, you know, I'm not worried about the details. Listen, fam, if you're not gonna pay attention to the details, don't call yourself a style dude. Don't call yourself a person who is evoking style or promoting style, because you're not. You're promoting fashion, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you're a fashion guy, so you can keep me up to date in what's going on in the trend world on Trending Thursdays. You're that guy who's going to keep those things up. But a stylish guy may not have all the trendy things. As a matter of fact, I would implore him not to have any of the trendy things now when it comes to urban fashion, because it's probably not going to speak to who he is unless it is urban, right? Unless his style is urban. But even then, he may have a direct focus. Like, there's certain people whose focus is high fashion street, or high street fashion, that's the best way to say it. And if that's the case, they're focusing their intention on something very, very specific, and they're saying that I'm a street cat, you know, street kid. I enjoy what the urban element has to offer, but it's on a higher level. So these cats are probably wearing Rick Owens, Rodarte if they're females. They're doing some Parenza Schooler, and pairing that with the Yeezys and some Balmain jeans, like, and they're putting everything together. But don't say that you're a style guy and you don't have any direction, you don't have any detailing that's going to separate you in that space. And again, I think that there's the trend right now is just do everything, just do a little bit of everything. But again, you become a jack of all trades and you've mastered none. So you haven't set yourself apart from anybody else, because you're the person who is doing, you know, street style one day, suits the next day, preppy the third day. And so you really don't have any direction. You look like you're all over the place. And as a man, as a person who is in menswear, as a person who is trying to direct somebody to understand them, you're putting yourself in a very precarious situation, because nobody's really going to understand that. And my biggest goal for you is to help you have understanding of self, allow other people to understand you, so that you can really have an impact through your image. If you're not having an impact in your image, it's kind of like, what are you doing it for? You're doing it for attention, and that's some shit that females would do. And I hate to ruffle any feathers or make anybody feel bad about this situation. I know it probably isn't gonna happen today. My tribe right now would probably agree with me, but there's gonna be some people who are watching this. I'm talking to you who are going to disagree with me. But if you do, leave me some comments in the comment box, rebuttaling this, and why you're not doing it for somebody else, or why you're not dressing, you know, for those females, you're dressing for the masses. Because I guarantee if you're dressing for yourself, it's probably not going to be understood, because it's going to make other people uncomfortable, because you're stepping into yourself. It's just like a person who really knows who he is or who she is, and you ask them a question and they say no, and you're like, but why? Because I don't want to do that, or because I said no. And they're like, but why don't you want to do that? Because I don't want to do that. Well, but why? Well, I'm not answering that question anymore. I just told you I don't want to do that, so that's what it is. Like they're, you know, your parents or something. You have an obligation to do whatever they said. Like, that'll make certain people uncomfortable. Or if you're willing to be who you are in certain situations, that'll make other people uncomfortable. And it's not that that's what the aim is, but if it happens, you're okay with that, and you're not ruffled by that. And so it's important for you to understand that. And to make sure that you're owning who you are, And mastering yourself. I'm not asking you to master anybody else but yourself, to understand how you process information, how you go through information, and how to cultivate and develop that awareness. If you can do that, I promise you, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else because you separate yourself. And that's the most important thing. So I'm going to leave you with that. You can try that on, see how it fits you. Please share this with your friends. Please give this a thumbs up right there. Please make sure that if you haven't subscribed, that you subscribe. And let's keep this conversation going. Let's keep the dialogue going. And it's Thursday. You made it another day. So I want you to make sure that you are living a life of greatness, because you are great. You do know that, right? So that's why I expect you to master yourself and be an expert in your experiences and those details. And don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind. So you should always dress to express. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.